from guidance with us to present the academic roadmap, understanding Naviance and GPA. To start the meeting off, our 10th grade principal, Larry Sullivan, will just sort of say a quick hello, and then we'll shift to listening to Cynthia Rivera from Guidance talk about GPA and honors courses, followed up by Nick Willett, also from Guidance, to help us understand a little bit more about the Naviance system and what to expect the rest of sophomore year from a sophomore academic standpoint. And we will have Q&A at the end, but absolutely feel free if you need any clarification, throw that in the Q&A and we'll try to address that along the way as well. Thank you so much. And Larry, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a great fall. We've just been commenting on how lovely the weather has been, and we're all enjoying it. Kristen more than any of us, clearly, being outside. So I hope you're enjoying this fall. I hope you're getting ready for a wonderful Thanksgiving with family and friends. And today's program, as Mary said, I think you'll learn quite a bit from, even those of you who maybe have a second or third child going through, because if we know anything, it's that things in the world of getting kids ready for the college process have changed dramatically through COVID and through just the evolution of the process. So I know Cindy and Nick are incredibly knowledgeable and great resources for you this morning, and I'm sure you'll really enjoy hearing from them and learn quite a bit from them.
Great. Thank you, Larry. Cindy, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, and welcome everybody. I am going to share my screen, which tends to always have its little blips, but hopefully it will work out well and we can begin our presentation here. We're loading. Of course, I changed my password today, so everything's not working quite as well, but okay. So here we are today, and we're going to go over a number of things so that you get an idea of what this year is going to be like, and especially in understanding what's to come. I sort of think of this as the year before the storm. It's a time that we still want your kids to be kids and not worry too much about their future. It's a year of becoming aware of what's to come for you as parents, but not asking much of your children right now. They're probably not ready to really just think about all of this just yet, but we are going to work towards that so that they're ready for junior and senior year, which really does kick things off much more. In here, come on. Oh, Nick, I forgot we do this on this thing. Okay, so.
If you double tap, Cindy, it'll go quicker.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know that. Okay. So anyways, what we do this year is that we gently begin to introduce the concepts of looking to the future, of goal setting, exploring their interests, understanding who they are independent of their peers, so that they are ready to start to narrow their focus of what they're interested in as they move forward. We want them to continue to explore activities and interests, but we're also asking them to start to think about, well, what's most important and how will they narrow that focus moving forward, to perhaps develop those interests that are rising up for them. We even do it when we plan their schedule for junior and senior year. As 10th graders, we look at both years, planning ahead for them, and help them to understand where in high school, if they're already saying, I think I want to go into business as a career option, then perhaps we might say, well, have you looked at an economics or a business course to take in addition to what you're taking next year? If they're saying that they really love English and writing, well, we'll start to talk to them about what opportunities moving forward could include that for them, and perhaps have them in high school join journalism or submit a piece of work to our literary magazine, The Spectator. So there's different things that we start to talk to them about so that they can explore those interests and think about what they're doing from just in their own personal life moving forward. For you as parents, we do want you to sort of do more this year in terms of getting ready for next year. We spend a lot of time this year working, presenting programs to you, making sure that you're informed of what's to come in junior and senior year. So as you can see, we had financial aid night already. So if you didn't get a chance to see that video is up on our website under video presentations, under the school counseling website. You can take a look at that. That'll give you an idea of really what to expect financially, and to start to think about what you can and can't afford. With UConn is up over $30,000 a year, and the private institutions are creeping up to $80,000 a year in some cases. So it's a huge investment on your part, and so you need to think about that and what does that mean for you. In February, we're going to have Summit Educational Group come in and talk about SATs and ACTs and what to expect, and how to decide and think about it for your child, and understand what those tests mean in this day and age. And with COVID, a lot of schools have gone test optional, but hopefully we'll get some better insight as to what that means for you as the sophomores move forward. That will testing come back the way it has in the past, or is it going to be something that will continue to take a back seat? So we'll be talking about that in February. For those of you who've had older kids, there's no longer subject tests to worry about. There's no longer a writing portion of the SAT to consider and worry about. So things have changed a bit for this class. So we'll be looking at that. And then in May, we have a parent coffee every year. Hopefully we'll be live by then, where we'll detail what junior and senior year looks like in terms of college visits and planning, and how do you go about all the things that happen in junior and senior year. We're still working on whether we'll have a college admissions panel in the spring. We want it to be live rather than virtual, so we're looking at the possibility of bringing that in, hopefully in early April, perhaps late March. So something to just watch out for. We haven't quite gotten there yet, although a lot of directors have said they'd be willing to come. So hopefully that will happen. Okay, so just briefly before we get started, just going over the academic overview of what we're looking at for your kids in terms of graduating. With your class and the class before, there's new requirements in that kids now need to get 25 credits to graduate, so we're working towards that with them. They'll need 9 credits in the humanities area. They'll need 9 credits in the STEM area. World language is now a requirement for 1 year of world language. I do want to add that this year they've just added back in science labs, but now sciences get 1.25 credits each year for their science. So you do get considerable credit for taking science, which is a nice thing. And then the final thing is this mastery-based diploma assessment, which is going to be a collection of a portfolio of work that your child has worked on over the years. So right now they're in that collecting mode. They have pieces that they've used, and it can be cross-disciplinary, and we're just developing what that will look like. And the final piece of that will be a reflection in senior year about what they've learned and how they think they've developed, how they think they've learned and developed over the 4 years of high school. So it's nothing they really have to do additionally. We're going to work on it with them each year. And as they go into senior year, teachers will be working with them on this brief reflection for what they're doing. But that's additional credit. So more information to come on that. I just wanted to give you a brief understanding of that.
And Cindy, could I just mention in regards to the credit distribution, if you could just go back on that credit distribution there, just keep in mind for everyone that these are the minimum requirements. So when, if you're looking at world language that says 1.0, the expectation of colleges would be 3 is probably more of a minimum. So just keep in mind, even though it says 3 mathematics, most kids are going to take 4 years of math, 4 years of science. Each kid will be a little bit different, but just keep that in mind that these are minimum.
Good point. Thank you. And then the 4-year plan that you would have received in their freshman year, when we talked with them about what they were thinking about, we do lay this out each year. And as I said before, in junior and senior year, in this year when we talk with them, we will look at what junior and senior year is going to look like. So anyone in sophomore year who's doing pretty well, earning high 80s into the 90s, we may be considering some honors or AP classes at this point in junior and senior year. So we'll be looking at that with them and with their teachers, and we will continue to map out their schedule each year on this. Okay, so let's get to grade point average. So we offer on a transcript 4 GPAs, which is a crazy amount, but we've done it for as long as I can remember. It was something approved by the Board of Ed many, many years ago, and colleges use whichever ones they want. So let me explain these ones. We have the comprehensive GPA, which is your student's GPA for each year. Every class they take, except for PE and health, that they are given a grade in, it goes into their overall grade point average. The weighted comprehensive GPA is the same thing, yet it gives a weighting for any honors or AP classes that they're taking. So most freshmen and sophomores don't get into the APs just yet, but they will have some honors classes that they will be getting some weighting for. And then an academic GPA is given, which only looks at the GPA of the 5 core subjects: English, math, science, social studies, and world language. And the weighted academic GPA is giving a weight to all honors and AP classes, both in the academic, but certainly also APs like AP Music Theory and things like that would also be given that academic boost as well. So the academic, the weight that we put on a GPA is a multiplier of 1.075. So this does not change the grade, the cold grade that you get on a report card, but the overall GPA changes. So I'll just give you a little sense of this. So this is a student with a comprehensive GPA. So that's everything they take, given 89.62. The weighting comes in because they took a couple of honors classes to weight it up so it gets the multiplier. So in the GPA, it gets a weighting: academic, the core subjects, and then the weighted academic 92.5. So 4 different GPAs for them to look at. Colleges, we report weighted academic GPA is what we report. And colleges, but many colleges like this are unweighted GPAs, and they will add their own weighting to give the same weighting across high schools. So we in Fairfield County generally do a 1.075 or something similar to that. We're all pretty similar to how we weight our honors and AP classes with some variations. But across the country, that's very different. Some give much more weighting for an AP class. So what colleges will do, will take this unweighted GPA, either academic or comprehensive, and give their own ideas as to how much weight for an AP or an honors class. So ultimately, it comes out looking like this, where a transcript is presented to a college. So colleges see a transcript of 3 years: freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. And they see semester 1 and semester 2 grades. They see the GPA for the year. That's an unweighted GPA. So each year has its own GPA. Then up here, in the box up here, is is where all those GPAs are presented to the college. Now, your children right now have completed freshman year, so they only have this GPA. At the end of sophomore year, and they only have a GPA with no weighting on it. At the end of sophomore year, we will add in the weighting so that they can see where they fall for a weighted GPA. And next summer, when we send home our little parent letters, we also will attach that first unofficial transcript. So you as parents and your children can see where you're falling in that realm of working and where they fall in things. So each year, more information comes. So this student added some honors classes in junior year, and we will expect them to have 2 or 3 AP courses in senior year. It looks like, because they were in Honors American Studies, they might be in AP English and AP Government. They've been in Honors Spanish, they may be in AP Spanish. So there's those kinds of things to look at and that we advise for, depending on the student. Yep. Did you want to say something, Nick?
I did, yeah. If you just go back to the transcript, I wanted to just point out too, that each college is going to look at the transcript, holistically. And, an important part of the transcript is that, as Mrs. Rivera said, the yearly GPA. So something that the colleges are going to look at is they're going to look to see, is that GPA going up on a yearly basis, and each kid is going to be a little bit different, and each kid has, different stories to tell, but they want to see growth through high school. So it's important, to not just get concentrated on the academic weighted GPA or unweighted GPA. All kids have a story to tell, so it's important to look at the bigger picture too.
Good point. Yes, they would really want to see that pathway that you've taken, and if there's a blip. This student went from an 87 to an 85 to an 87. They've been pretty consistent all along. But once in a while, something happened. And particularly with the COVID years, there's been, some blips up and down for students for a variety of reasons. And that's where the counselor comes in to explain the story of the transcript when we get there in senior year. Okay, so choosing AP honors courses, what to take for your children. Colleges, the more selective colleges, yes, would like to see some AP and honors classes, but you don't want your child taking so many that their grades suffer. So we're always looking for that balance of what's the right amount for your child to take and still get good grades. It's a very individual process to decide. We want kids to really look at where their interests lie and focus on those courses over taking APs in every subject if they're not going to be particularly interested in those courses. So, you do get, they get recommendations from their teachers each year. It's very important to consider what they're talking about, and looking for that balance with the AP and honors is going to be very, very important. We also have college credit courses in ECE, which stands for Early College Experience. Those are courses presented that are taught by teachers here at the high school, but students are getting UConn credit for taking those courses. And we also have courses where kids are getting college credit through Norwalk Community College for taking those courses. So again, we give honors weighting to those. But those credits are often transferable to the college that your child ultimately attends for transfer credit. And so those are good ideas to take as well. We also have a partnership with NCC, so any student who has a B average or better in junior and senior year can take a course at NCC for free that's of interest to them. So there's a process involved, and we would be glad to go over it. But there's a lot to think about in choosing what's right for your child. And as we go into course selection this year, and of course in junior and senior year, we talk to them about where they're hoping to get to and how do you get there. Okay, now in terms of starting the college search, as I said, probably too early for most kids. So, and again, we're just giving you ideas and concepts. So when you get to next year, when we jump into this, we can get started. Of course, and we're going to have Nick take over at this point. But again, we're looking not to get started right now, but to understand what's moving, what we've done with your kids, and what to do, what to plan for next year. So Nick, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Great, so thanks, Cindy. So good morning, everyone. I'm gonna briefly touch upon a couple of important things that we've done with your children up to this point and what to expect as they move towards graduation. So the nice thing is we've been getting to know your students through several different ways, and we've spent some really valuable time with them. And we'll continue to do so this year. So let's discuss Naviance. Naviance is a program, that your students are going to use throughout the next 2.5 years more and more. So they're going to become more and more familiar as they go along, especially into the end of their sophomore year, into junior and senior year. So let me just briefly explain what Naviance is. So, Naviance is a web-based school counseling resource. It is used by many high schools throughout the United States. This program supports career and college planning for your children. It is secure and it's private, and it's also linked to our school department. So, the counselors go into the classrooms. We know what's happening on Naviance, so it's linked really closely to our department with the information. Many of you might be familiar with it because your older child has used it, which is great for siblings, but it may be new to some of you. So don't feel like you have to be an expert. You will start learning as the kids are more and more. So as freshmen, this is when we introduced Naviance to your kids during the first quarter. We visited their health classes and we discussed and taught the learning styles actually inventory, which is part of one of the assessments that the kids can take. Hopefully your children have shared this inventory with you. I get mixed results with that. Sometimes your kids will and sometimes they won't. So I sure hope that they did. This inventory shows them results on their type of learning style. So some of you may be familiar. There's different learning styles: the auditory, visual, reading and writing, or kinesthetic learners. You'll see an example here on the screen. So each of your children received a detailed report about their strengths or how they best learn. This report does show them examples like, I don't know that you actually can see very well on the screen there, but whether they're low auditory or high auditory. So for example, I was in the classroom yesterday teaching the learning styles and asked a question to the kids: do you like to listen to music when you study, or do you not like to listen to music when you study? So, some kids raise their hands, some kids don't. So they each are different, different to that. Again, some might prefer low light versus bright light. So this assessment, though, can help them in the future with college choices. So remind them it's useful information that they probably aren't thinking about at this time. So just to give you an example, does anybody know what a co-op school is? A co-op school would be a school like Northeastern, where it isn't as traditional as other colleges, and kids learn inside and outside the classroom. So this is the type of school that would work well with a kinesthetic learner, meaning kinesthetic learners like to physically do something. If they're in science, they really enjoy the labs. So that would be a great example of a connection of this tool that they can connect later on down the road when they start researching colleges. Another thing is actually to keep in mind is that you should ask your kids for their username and password to Naviance. This is so you can actually, I see a couple, Kristen, I see you saying, yes, you can log in with them and see some of the results and familiarize yourself with what they're seeing too. So it's just a really nice tool for parents to be able to go in with their kids and look at. So in 10th grade, we'll be diving more into who they are and how this relates to their future goals. We will meet with the students to help break down their initial considerations as they start to plan ahead in second semester in 2 sessions. So our goal for our department and for the counselors here is to try to get the students more engaged in thinking and reflecting on their post-secondary options. We feel the best starting place is to consider, who am I? Okay, each of your children are they're individuals, they're different, right? They have different interests. So who am I as a person? What are my strengths as a person? What do I actually enjoy? And as Cindy said earlier, how can I connect that with some of the electives that we have here at our school? What might I want to do in the future? And what means or in terms are my future goals? So as a sophomore, Naviance has a number of tools to use to explore. And a nice starting point is one particularly we like called Road Trip Nation. Now, Road Trip Nation features over 3,500 video and interviews with individuals who have forged through challenges to accomplish their unique goals. The leaders candidly discuss hardship, successes, and the obstacles that they overcame to get to where they are. So this is a great tool for kids to actually go in, if they have an interest, start listening to the videos. And what happens is these leaders are going to start exactly when they were in high school and what they did to start learning more and more about their field of study. So once they've actually watched some of the videos in Road Trip Nation, there's also different tools to use to explore interests and strengths and apply them to college or post-high school planning. One we'll be using with your kids in our first session is called the Career Cluster Finder. So here on the screen is an example of that assessment. This is a simple assessment that helps the students discover which career cluster may be a good match based on activities that interest him or her, personal qualities the student has, and subjects the child does enjoy in school. The results of the assessment include the top 3 clusters, and the student is matched with those 3 clusters, and they can also favorite those clusters. So I'm just looking to see, Cindy, what you have here on the screen. And actually, I think, Cindy, it looks like this is the assessment that you might have taken.
It is. This is exactly me, what I like.
So, so again, it's a nice assessment for kids to go in and look at. And there's many different assessments that I haven't even mentioned. There's the career interest inventory, there's intelligence assessments, and there's also the mini Myers-Briggs, I believe, is still on there, which most of you might know that, that's an assessment that can cost you thousands of dollars for adults to take outside of the school, and the kids actually have access to that within Naviance. We spend a tremendous amount of time at our jobs, and our ultimate goal is happiness and fulfillment. So it's a great tool for them to start to find a career that really interests them. And yes, it might be early to know what a student wants to be when they grow up, but at least it's a good starting place for them. In the second session, the kids will dive more into their results, and we'll be researching college locations, size of colleges, if they're interested in a specific sport or major, and then we're going to generate a list of potential schools to start researching and what to look at. So, this is just an initial review for them to get familiar with how to start researching before they get into their junior year. So there's no stress involved with this. It's just to kind of help them get prepared. What I will say is it's a great time to actually start looking at colleges, though, in between summertime, in between sophomore and junior year. And I always remind my parents that you don't have to go far away, right? There's plenty of colleges that are local to us, just to kind of give them an idea of what a bigger school might look like to a smaller school. all of us counselors were just at UConn last week doing some seminars up there. And, so it's great to maybe drive up to UConn and see what a big campus is like versus a smaller campus like Quinnipiac or Fairfield U, whatever that might be of where you visit.
And again, just to remind you, we're doing this program in the spring. We don't really need the kids to get on here and do these just yet because we want to couch it in our own instruction as to how they're doing it, so, what they're looking for, and how we want them to consider this.
Yeah, no, great point, Cindy. We don't want them to jump on this exactly right now. So we'll be doing this program second semester around April. They'll become more familiar with it. So as juniors, now you're transitioning into the research stage, right? So just to kind of share with you, juniors returning in the fall will start with the PSAT. We do encourage all students to take that test. There is no preparation needed for this exam. It serves as a check-in on students' progress and pinpoints areas of development for them. It's also important to know colleges won't see these scores. It's only a practice test, and students will receive their scores in December, and the scores will be discussed with you and the family for a testing plan, which will be discussed in your junior meetings in the springtime of your junior year. Now, juniors will be using Naviance to continue their college searches. So they will be familiar with it more and more because of the career cluster finder that we'll be doing with them at the end of this year. And when students research, they'll begin to keep lists of the colleges that that they have interest in. So for example, up on the screen is just a screenshot of the page on Naviance, which is called Colleges I'm Thinking About. And at this point, they can really put as many colleges as they want, at the end of this year, into their junior year, because it's all about research. And if they look at a college, that might be a possibility, make sure it goes on the list. Now, counselors will have access to these in order to prepare for the individual junior appointments in the winter with students and parents. During this meeting, an array of questions will be asked to pinpoint college interests, and counselors will discuss like the testing plans, whether they're concentrating on the ACT or SAT, what test optional means. And then, a lot of information will come out of those meetings. So junior parent meetings happen in second semester of their junior year in early winter. And once that meeting is over, the counselor and students will research together and add more schools to the list as we go along into the summer of their junior year. But by the end of their junior year, they want to have an idea of colleges that are typically likelies, targets, and reaches for them. And it is important to remember that this will change over time into their senior year. So Naviance is going to be a nice tool for them, not just to research colleges, but when they start putting their list together, to see whether those colleges will match in the categories of, is this a reach school for me? Is this a likely school for me? And that's what Naviance really does a great job of through scattergrams, which we won't talk about today, but that's how they'll indicate what colleges they'll start looking at. Now, as a senior, this is where Naviance, we start to transition into the applying stage. And Naviance is used to transmit information to the colleges. So we'll be transmitting school profiles, their grades, teacher recommendations, and we use Naviance to formally know where to send the students information. So this is why it's important to have a comfortable list by the time they're applying to each of those colleges. Early, seniors actually will continue to update their lists of their prospective colleges in senior year. And once they're comfortable, they will move those selected colleges from that list I showed you earlier of colleges I'm applying to, or colleges I'm thinking about, to colleges I'm applying to. Then the registrar will have access to these to submit each student's prospective information to each college. So during the senior year, they'll also invite teachers to write and submit recommendations for them. So keep in mind that they're going to get reminders and they're going to be instructed through this entire process. We don't just say, here's what you do. We actually go into classrooms, in their English classrooms, in their health, whatever that might be for them, and we discuss the process with them. We remind them what's coming up. We even give booklets in their senior year to kind of help guide them as this is what you should be doing on Naviance or whatever that may be. And then once the students start hearing back with their decisions, they update the Naviance system with their college decisions and where they plan to attend. And that will enable our registrar to submit their final transcripts through our Naviance program. And then one of the last things they're going to do towards the end of the year is they're going to complete a senior survey. And that's actually going to help us understand where are you actually attending, what did you enjoy through this process, and then it also gives us good information statistically to use for the next couple of years for students that are coming through. So again, I went through a lot of information today. Please know that you don't have to remember it all. This is why you have a counselor. We're here to help you answer questions and help guide you. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to a counselor if you do have questions as you move along.
And also, we partner with the PFA so much around programs so please read their ramagram and their weekly updates, because that's so helpful. The meetings we have with you all through the PFA, and then we'll have a number of programs ourselves with you in junior and senior year too. So we keep informing you every step of the way as we go. So maybe we can get to some questions now.
Sure. I don't know if Cindy and Nick, you can see the questions, but if not, I can read them to you and you can respond. So the one question we have is whether the GPA is weighted by subject, not the whole GPA weighted. So is it done by the individual courses students take or applied to all of their courses?
Well, the weighting is per course. So if you're taking grade level math at the M2 level, that course is not getting any weighting. But if you're taking an honors English class, that class is getting a weighting. But the weighting isn't being shown anywhere but in those GPAs at the top of the transcript. The overall GPA is what is getting the weighting, not the individual courses that you're seeing. It's figured in later on. Hope that helps. It's confusing, I know, but it's hard to see.
And then there are some questions about some of the assessments and surveys that students are doing within Naviance. Are those assessments done by students in Naviance accessible to colleges, or do they remain purely in-house for us?
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
No, yeah, so actually that's a great question. The assessments, all surveys, this is just information. Colleges will never see what they're taking in Naviance. And then I see another question there too, that, if your child didn't show you the actual assessment, that's why it's important. The only way you'd be able to see it is to, ask them for their username and password, and then
or go on with them, yeah.
Yeah, or go on with them, then you'll be able to actually see the assessment or have them take that assessment.
Yeah, the students can see anything in Naviance, and the counselors can see it as well. But if they want to share it, we ask that they share it with you. Electives that are weighted or not, it's the anything that's listed as an honors or an AP class will get a weighting. So that would be honors TV broadcasting, that would be AP music theory, courses like that. The child development, there's a UConn level. After you've taken the initial child development class, there's a full year human development class that is, you're getting UConn credit as an honors class. So M3 classes are not weighted, but we are in discussion around that.
So there's a question out there how to translate GPAs to the 4.0 scale. So, there's a lot of different stuff out there on the internet. I would say, Cindy, if I'm correct, the one that we typically use here is the College Board GPA converter. So they're usually pretty close to each other. But if you Google the GPA converter, it's going to have so many different ones out there.
But when you are applying to schools, they usually have their own, they'll ask you, does your school grade on a 100-point scale or a 4.0 scale? So you're given the option to look at it on a 100-point scale. So it's easy enough to find if you want to, but we didn't talk about the conversion because we never do convert to a 4.0 scale. Colleges can, have ranges that they use. So it's different for every college.
There's another question there that says, what if your child doesn't agree with the assessment, tells them, or thinks it's incorrect? And, we tell students in the classroom, you have to keep in mind, it is a computer, right? So it's not going to be 100% accurate. But we feel like that there's probably some good information in there that the kids can take away. Now, kids can retake the assessment really as many times as they want. I don't think they necessarily change that much, but just keep in mind it is a computer, and so it's not going to be 100% correct.
Right, and we always tell kids that this is just giving them ideas they may not have thought about in the past, and giving them options they wouldn't have considered, because most kids, particularly when we start talking about careers, they know what their parents do and their friends' parents do, but and they know about cops and lawyers from TV, but there's so many other things, and forensics, they all know about CSI, but they are limited in their scope of what they know to be options out there. So this is a way of just offering ideas to them. So, and there was another question about the M3 classes. We're not going to go into whether they're going to be weighted or not. It's only beginning discussions. Nothing that's going to happen anytime soon. So we're not going to worry about it. And the link to Naviance, again, there is no login for parents or guests. It's really only logging in with your child. They don't offer the options for anything more than that. So you'll have to go on with your child, which is really very interesting to do with your child, to understand their thought process and what they're thinking about things. So, and there's okay, so maybe one more question. There are college fairs in the area, typically in the fall and spring, and we do advertise them. So please keep in touch with our update with information that's coming out on our College and Career Center Facebook page and Twitter page. There's a lot of information. We don't hold our own college fair. We are very active in having the reps come here and visit with our kids. So, all right.
And I do see there's a question about the recording of this session. Usually it takes about 2 days or so for the video to be downloaded and then uploaded by the PFA. So if you missed it or want a refresher on the information, I would look for it toward the end of the week on the PFA website.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you all found this as informative as I did. Cindy, Nick, thank you. I think from a parent standpoint, you answered a lot of questions on my end and probably just made dinner time conversation a lot easier on our son. So a big thank you from all of us at our house. This way he can just focus on being a sophomore and doing what he needs to do in school. Thank you very much, and thanks again for joining us, everyone.
Get out there.
It's a good one. It's a good reminder to have that too. So, thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Be well, all.
Thank you.
Bye.